Justin Trudeau lied to Canadians when he said he would run tiny deficits and spend all the borrowed money on infrastructure. This year's deficit is 400% higher than promised. There is no plan to balance the budget, and no infrastructure is being built. So, where did all the deficit spending money end up going? Let's take a look at the top 10 things the Trudeau Liberals decided to waste your money on in 2018. Number 10, remember Justin's disastrous trip to India? He played Mr. Dress-Up with his family at all of the popular tourist hotspots. He failed to secure any new trade deals. He hosted a convicted criminal who had attempted to assassinate an Indian government official. When news broke about this criminal attending the reception and pictures of him with Trudeau's wife were shared around social media, the Trudeau government concocted a conspiracy theory. And to top it all off, the Liberals have tried to conceal the cost of National Lampoon's Indian Vacation. At last report, the junket ended up costing $1.6 million. That includes $17,044 to fly celebrity chef Vikram Vish to India to prepare a meal for an official reception. That's right. For the price of a modest family sedan, your tax dollars were used to send a Canadian citizen to India to cook Indian cuisine for the Prime Minister. Number 9. Speaking about lifestyles of the rich and famous Prime Ministers named Trudeau, Justin has been spending heavily on upgrading the official residence at Harrington Lake. The Trudeau PMO were quick to point out that the Prime Minister paid for the swing set out of his own pocket. But did you know that you're on the hook for the installation and upkeep? What Trudeau didn't pay for was $28,000 for ski trail grooming. You paid that. Next time Trudeau takes a personal day, there's a good chance he'll be enjoying the freshly groomed ski trails at your expense. Number 8. Unfortunately for taxpayers, not only were they forced to spend $18,000 to fumigate a building to kill a harmless spider, this embarrassment made international headlines. Everyone in the world can now read about how Canadian bureaucrats convinced themselves they just had to work from home for 2 days because somebody thought the common yellow spider was actually a very rare brown recluse spider. Number 7. Kids are being rushed to hospitals across the country after eating edible marijuana products that Trudeau didn't bother to regulate after legalizing marijuana. Health Canada is the government department responsible for creating regulations to protect children from consuming powerful cannabis products like gummy bears and chocolate bars. Unfortunately for children, Health Canada is too busy teaching your children how to prepare chicken nuggets. Apparently, the busybodies in Health Canada think it's their job to instruct your children on how to use a stove with $40,000 of your money. Number 6. Each year, the Government of Canada spends $5.6 billion on financial aid to the world's poorest people through the Global Affairs Department. Under the Harper Conservative government, foreign aid was transformed to target spending to achieve the most bang for a buck. We ensured every dollar was targeted at key goals like reducing malnutrition and reducing infant mortality. Under this bad spending Liberal government, a new agency called FinDev was established to distribute financial aid. The Global Affairs Department still exists. The Liberals just think that the best way to reduce poverty in other countries is to hire more bureaucrats here in Canada. And what was the first thing these newly hired bureaucrats did at their new agency? They hired an expensive ad agency to come up with a logo and a catchy name for the agency. The name they chose? FinDev. You spent $500,000 on a logo and a name that wasn't even needed. Number 5. Warning. everything about this next story is going to make you angry. The Trudeau Liberals created an entire new government agency with the sole purpose of finding new ways to conduct skills training. They don't conduct any skills training themselves. They named this agency the Future Skills Lab. But then the Liberals realized they hadn't focus grouped this new agency, which for Liberals is practically a national emergency. They did some polling, and apparently people who were polled preferred calling this new agency a center and not a lab. So they spent $30,000 to change the name from Future Skills Lab to Future Skills Center. Number 4, the Trudeau Liberals have allowed spending to get out of control. What better evidence for this than a government that's bought 631 new cars for the G7? The Americans always bring their own vehicles wherever they go in the world. That means the Liberals bought 105 cars per world leader attending. Worst of all, many of the large SUVs they bought were barely driven, some not at all. The federal government is now auctioning off as many of these brand new cars for tens of thousands of dollars less than what we paid for them just a few months ago. Number 3, Twitter is a free service, but you're spending a fortune on tweets. Earlier this year, we learned just how much of your tax dollars are going towards tweets. The Minister of Health's Twitter account requires 1.5 well-paid government bureaucrats to operate, and they required $6,100 of overtime in just 5 months. That does not include the cost of the Department of Health's own Twitter account, nor the cost of the minister's personal Twitter account. The CBC calculated that this meant Canadian taxpayers were spending over $100,000 to manage one Twitter account that only has a few thousand followers. But wait, Trudeau has 35 ministers. Number 2, since we're on the topic of expensive tweets, let's take a look at what Trudeau has been doing. Early on Sunday morning, while other world leaders were returning from the G20 meeting or paying respects to the late President Bush, Justin Trudeau was tweeting. This juvenile virtue signaling tweet directed at a South African comedian famous for hosting an American comedy show just cost you $50 million. Announcing major new funding initiatives on Twitter is just the latest example of Trudeau's lack of respect for Parliament, his lack of respect for your money, and just a general lack of self-respect. Begging foreign celebrities to pay attention to him is an expensive embarrassment for the whole country. Honorable mention, before we get to our number 1 example of how Trudeau wasted your money in 2018, we must mention Trudeau's open borders tweet from last year. We know illegal immigration began to surge after Trudeau's reckless tweet. What we only learned this year was just how much one ill-conceived tweet has ended up costing Canadians. According to the independent parliamentary budget officer, the cost to federal taxpayers this year is at $340 million. Number 1. And the number 1 example of Justin Trudeau wasting your money must be a new personal record for him. Thanks to the Trudeau Liberals, you have spent $4.5 billion to pay off the wealthy and well-connected shareholders of Kinder Morgan. Not only did they have no business nationalizing a pipeline, they overpaid for the privilege. According to filings in the US by Kinder Morgan, the Trudeau Liberals overpaid by $1.5 billion. Some have estimated that the government will need to spend over $7 billion of our tax dollars to complete the expansion of the pipeline. Your taxes are going up, leaving you poorer than you were in 2017, but the rich foreign investors, friendly with Trudeau, get billions in 2018. That's it for our top 10 times Trudeau wasted your money in 2018. Let's hope next year's video will be the top 10 ways our new strong conservative majority government is saving you money. Until then, don't forget to like and share this video, and I will see you in the new year.